Everyday phrases you had no idea were coined by Jews. Will Mashiach, the Messiah, be born of a virgin? Plus, how to live a meaningful life. This is Rabbi Yossi Madvig, and you're listening to Jews Did It First.
My life, my length of days, you are the rhythm in my veins. My heart pulses to your name. I rise from sleep and speak your praise.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and please subscribe and leave a review. Also, if you'd like to donate to help contribute to the podcast, please go to www.jewishoswego.org/Jews Did It First. Just click the Make a Donation button in the upper right-hand corner. And now, Jews Did It First. You would probably be shocked to know how many phrases you say every day actually have a Jewish source. I'm going to mention 2 sayings today. We'll stick to this theme for 2 or 3 episodes, but then I want to move on to other things. Don't worry, I'll get to more popular quotes and sayings that Jews did first in the future. It's just that I know everyone has different interests, and I want to make sure that everyone stays interested. One of my personal favorite sayings that I found a Jewish source for is no pain, no gain. There's another related one as well. You get out what you put in. From exercise videos to movies to your high school gym teacher probably. You've probably heard both of these statements over and over. But do you know their origins? Or that they in fact have the same source? Now you've probably heard it first said in Jane Fonda's workout videos. Iconic expressions like no pain, no gain and feel the burn seem to have entered into modern American culture through those videos in the 1980s. But let's go back a bit further. In 1734, a version of the phrase was crafted by Benjamin Franklin in Poor Richard's Almanac. He says there are no gains without pains. Even further back, in 1650, one of the earliest versions of the phrase comes from the poet Robert Herrick in his Hesperides. In the 1650 edition, a 2-line poem was added, no pains, no gains. And he says there, if little labor, little are our gains. Man's fate is according to his pains. Now there's an ancient Greek letter from Ignatius to Polycarp, which the earliest known copy, I believe, is around the 4th century CE, where it says, where the labor is great, the gain is all the more. Now Ignatius, who was an early Christian church father, lived in the 1st century CE. So we don't know if he said it then, or if it was perhaps a later interpolation into the 4th century copy. But we're going to go back even further. About 2,000 years ago, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi compiled and codified the Mishnah. What's the Mishnah, you ask? Great question. In a sentence, it is a record of legal rulings of the Jewish High Court, the Sanhedrin, and the varying opinions determined from the time of Moses and his court and on. Since it's covering over 1,000 years of material, it was written in the 2nd century, so we can't be 100% precise on the date, but we can pin it down to a century of when it was said based on who said it. One section of the Mishnah is Pirkei Avot, which is often translated Ethics of the Fathers, and it discusses many moral and ethical dicta rather than legal rulings. At some point in the 1st century BCE, that's about 100 years before this Ignatius fellow was even born, a student of Hillel, yes, the Golden Rule Hillel from the first episode, named Ben Hehe. He was actually a convert to Judaism, by the way. He's recorded in chapter 5, Mishnah 21 of Pirkei Avot, and there he says 3 words that inspired this episode. Lefum Sa'ara Agra. This is actually an Aramaic phrase. Lefum means according to. Sa'ara means a few things. It could be pain or difficulty or exertion. And Agra means reward or gain. So you see, there are different ways to translate this, which leads me to derive both of our modern phrases from these 3 words. First, you get out what you put in. Agra, the reward, or, in our sentence, what you get out. Lefum is according to tsa'ara, the exertion, or what you put in. And since tsa'ara can literally mean pain, you can translate lefum tsa'ara agra as according to the pain that tsa'ara is your gain agra. Or as we say, no pain, no gain. So whether you translate it as you get out what you put in, or you translate it as no pain, no gain, this just shows you that Jews said it first. And now, the counter-missionary. Let's move to another section of Isaiah that missionaries often point to in order to prove to the Jews that Jesus is the Messiah. It's another one of those sacred cows, so to speak of missionary texts. So let's take a look. I'm speaking of the famous Isaiah 7:14, which according to Christians foretells the virgin birth story. The verse reads like this: Therefore, the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, the Alma shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. You'll notice that I read one word in the original Hebrew. That's the word Alma. The reason I read it in Hebrew is because that it's the word of contention here. You see, missionaries claim that Alma means virgin. That would certainly make the verse more likable by them, no? However, this is nothing more than a mistranslation. As you'll see in future episodes, many times missionaries claim that something is a messianic prophecy that points to Jesus based on a mistranslation. The word Alma simply means young woman, with no indication as to her virginity. Now, it's possible she is, but it's possible that she's not. There's simply no claim being made with this word. To illustrate, King Solomon uses this word in Proverbs 30:19, when he compares a man being with an Alma to an eagle flying through the air, a ship passing through water, and a snake slithering over a rock. The purpose is to illustrate that there's no trace left behind. He concludes the analogy by saying this is how an adulterous woman acts. She eats, wipes her mouth, and says, I did nothing wrong. It doesn't sound too much like we're talking about a virgin here. Also, what a strange sign. If Isaiah wants to tell us that the Messiah is going to be born of a virgin, and that is somehow one of the ways we'll know it's the real Messiah, then he should have simply used the word that clearly means virgin. Unlike Alma, there is a word, Betula, that can only mean virgin, and Isaiah uses it 5 times in his work. So he's not shy, he's not afraid of the word. He says it in 23:4, 23:12, 37:22, 47:1, and 62:5. Plus, how is this really a sign? It doesn't show me anything. It doesn't tell me anything. If a pregnant woman tells you that she's a virgin, would you believe her? Of course not. It's not a very helpful sign. I am happy to note that many Christian translations have made this correction and translate Alma as young woman. This is all, of course, accepting the premise that it is a messianic prophecy in the first place. Is it? A cursory reading of chapter 7, look at verses 1 through 13. Yeah, that whole context thing again. That shows you that Isaiah is talking to King Ahaz about a particular event. 2 kings were preparing to do battle with him. God, through Isaiah, gives him a sign. What's the sign? The young woman will have a baby boy. The young woman, by the way. Not a young woman. He's pointing out someone specific here. He continues the sign, saying that she will name him Emmanuel. By the way, please show me even one instance where Jesus is called the name Emmanuel in the entire New Testament. It just doesn't exist. And while the boy is still an infant or a toddler, the sign continues, the 2 kings will be neutralized and he'll be just fine. I'm paraphrasing here. You can go read it yourself. Indeed, if you look at 2 Kings, in the end of chapter 15, the beginning of chapter 16, you'll see that the two kings are assassinated before they can wage war with Ahaz. Who was this mystery child, by the way? Jewish tradition shows that it was Isaiah's very own son. That's right, the young woman was his wife. In the very next chapter, chapter 8, verse 18, Isaiah says, "Behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me shall be signs and for wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts, who dwelleth on Mount Zion." His sons were She'ar Yashuv, which means the remnant shall return, and Emmanuel, or Immanuel, which means God is with us. The whole story is specific to that situation. No far-off future events, no messianic ambitions. Isaiah has plenty of messianic prophecies. This just isn't one of them. Now, Christians are certainly welcome, of course, to believe in the virgin birth story, the suffering servant narrative that we saw in Isaiah 53 and other chapters. They could believe that about Jesus. And that's their right and their belief, and I'm not here to butt in on that. Just don't use mistranslated and misappropriated passages from my Bible to do so. I mentioned last week that I was going to New York City with some college students. It was amazing. There was singing, dancing, eating. Of course, there was learning. I want to give a special yesher koach to the 6 students who came with me and the other 1,000 students from other campuses all over the world that participated. It's hard to take a weekend off of your schoolwork and your social life, but by making that investment, as one student told me, he made memories that he'll take with him for the rest of his life. That sounds well worth it to me. And this week's Torah portion starts off, this is the life of Sarah. And then it goes on to talk about her burial, because she's not even alive at the time. What gives? With a beginning like that, shouldn't it speak about her life? The truth is, when a person passes on, and the soul is returned to heaven, then all of the things they did in life are elevated and completed. Only then can we look back and say that it was a life well lived. And how was it lived? About Abraham and Sarah, it says that they were ba'im bayamim, they were coming in days. Why not just say that they grew old? Right? They were zakenim, they were old. The Rebbe teaches us that this is because each day was used to its fullest potential, maximizing the expression of latent godliness in each day. Therefore, at her death, we look and say, this is the life of Sarah, full, complete, elevated, and elevating. I give you all a blessing that you too will live each day to the fullest potential. Make those wonderful memories. Find another opportunity to do a mitzvah that you were not doing. Charity, tefillin, kosher, whatever it is. Be able to look at your life and say, that was my life. Full, meaningful, Jewish. If you're Jewish, of course. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to keep in touch, so please feel free to continue the conversation with me on the Facebook page, Jews Did It First, or email rabbi@jewishotswego.org. I'm also on Twitter @OswegoRabbi. Until next week, Shabbat Shalom.
Countless are your praise. You are the power that saves. Some days I take hours to pray. But even if my tongue was sweet and lips graceful, I would still be unable to praise you. I'm grateful. I promise to be loyal and faithful. I'll represent you. I won't disgrace you.